Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to the Monday, November 16th, 2020 Upper Providence Board of Supervisors meeting, and I'm calling this meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item up is a motion to approve the board agenda. Has everybody had the opportunity to look it over? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the board agenda for November 16th, 2020.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries. All right, public comment. The board will hear from any interested residents or taxpayer who would like to comment on an item on or not on this evening's agenda. The respondents are asked to keep their comments to 3 minutes, and this covers comments for SEI as well. So is there public comment?
The first hand up is Charles Stoll.
Okay. Can you hear us, Charles?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool. We could hear you as well.
Okay. We've been going around, seems like years with this deal with SEI, trying to displace our neighborhood, make us feel like we're not citizens of the township anymore. It's kind of the way we feel now, the way our township supervisors are even moving ahead on something that's been disregarded by the planning commission twice. We just don't understand why our supervisors want to represent the corporation versus the common citizens that elected them. At this point, we don't want any changes to Upper Indian Head Road. It's unanimous back here, and we just don't understand why you guys continue to push forward with something that the citizens don't want. Doesn't make any sense. SEI doesn't really benefit financially or anything from this. It's maybe a way they look at themselves or whatever that, they're above us. And it kind of appears that the township supervisors are in collusion with that, which we don't understand. It's really tough for us to understand why this is even coming up for a vote. But I guess you must do what you must do. But, just keep in mind, every one of you during election time promised to represent us, not them. And here we are, looks like it's in the opposite direction. So we'll see what comes of your meeting tonight, but all of us back here are against this. Thank you.
The next is Kristen Kraft.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Kristen.
I know you might be tired of hearing from us at this point, but let's face it, if the township was turning 2 dead-end roads in your neighborhood into through roads, you would keep fighting too, especially where there are alternatives. I agree with everything that Chuck has said. I don't want to, reiterate that. As you know, the township is the one who is pushing this Reba Road extension into our neighborhood because they think it's not safe with the flooding. The bike trail is exactly parallel to where this new road is supposed to go. It's less than 25 feet away, and we have not gotten a single explanation as to why you need to cut down trees and grade the hillside when there already exists a trail wide enough, as you saw in August, for a fire truck. There's no data to support the assumption that the trail is insufficient. In fact, we have proven over the course of 20 years that it is sufficient. There is a huge apartment complex down in Conshohocken that uses the trail when it floods, and I'm sure this happens up and down the trail system. It's a very common practice. But if, despite all of that, you feel that you have to do something, there are ways to improve the trail without cutting down any more trees. You can pave it, you can widen the apron to make the turn easier. Dave Clifford, who is from the county, said that he can get us collapsible bollards. If the Lower Indian Head, Upper Indian Head Road intersection is what concerns you, because that is the first thing to flood, do what Lower Providence did. Install a gate that can be closed when a flood occurs, or even when it's forecast. SEI can pay for a remote controlled gate to be installed on Upper Indian Head Road. This is sufficient for the Lower Providence Fire Marshal. That's why they installed them over there. I called over there, they said their fire marshal wanted it, and they put them up. So perfectly safe. So let's talk about the real safety issues. If you're worried about flooding, it's 3 times a year. I'm talking 3 times a year. And once in 30 years, we've needed to have a fire truck come back here. Every single day, bicyclists and pedestrians are going to interact with vehicles going up North and South Reba Road. Every Saturday and every Sunday, particularly in the summer, we get a minimum 200 bikers and pedestrians up and down that trail. So your encounters are going to double from where they are right now, okay? This is a very, very real problem. You are making it less safe. Going up to where the new Reba Road is supposed to intersect with Cider Mill Road, or Arcola, I don't know what you call it up there. School buses, teenagers, elderly drivers, and frankly, all of us are going to be at risk turning left onto Cider Mill Road. Have you done a safety study on that? We currently have access to a traffic light. You are taking it away and making it less safe. You want to talk about liability on both the trail crossings and the left turn? A personal injury lawyer is going to have a field day with that information. So we urge you to say no to this plan. But if you are worried about flooding, then tell your engineering staff to work with us on an alternative that will satisfy all of the parties. There are a lot of presumably smart people here. Let's figure this out. Thank you.
John Kraft has his hand up.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity.
I apologize. John and Kristen were sharing the same microphone.
Yeah. Sorry. So thanks for the chance to talk to you. You've heard me before. A couple of things I wanted to address. There's been a narrative we've heard a number of times from various township officials that SCI has given us proposals, but people back here don't know what they want. That's patently false. We've said over and over again that for safety's sake, we need guaranteed access to the improved signalized intersection at Cider Mill and Upper Indian Head Roads. We've also steadfastly maintained we don't want dead-end roads in our neighborhood turned into through streets, along with the accompanying loss of a natural buffer from SCI's campus. We've presented unanimous petitions to the supervisors and the Planning Commission on both those points, and we still stand by them. Anybody who says differently is blowing smoke by misinterpreting our willingness to accommodate by considering options. Conversely, when SEI changes its approach, even as it did even last week, no one accuses it of being disorganized or not knowing what it wants. Instead, it's flexible or sophisticated. So what about last week? We were still trying to negotiate with SEI when it withdrew its critical offer for easements to neighbors to use campus roads for access to the signalized intersections. Why would it do that? Company reps talk a lot about how it wants to enhance the safety of neighbors, but its offer of easements made publicly at the Planning Commission meeting in March seemed a genuine step in that direction. The only reason we configure for withdrawing it is that SEI figures it now has the supervisor's votes locked up to get what it wants while giving up very little. And make no mistake, that was its goal all along. Take the proposal before you tonight. The Planning Commission rejected it because it lacked enough detail. SEI said it's going to provide more detail later, but it wants to be sure the township's on board before spending a lot of money on it. Think about that. SEI reported $320 million in profit for the first 9 months of this year, and it's going to spend $47 million on its North Campus, but it doesn't want to spend money for a detailed plan until you can't back out. Again, SEI wants to give as little as possible away. Imagine for a minute instead of SEI, one of us neighbors had been rejected by the Planning Commission because our proposal wasn't detailed enough. Regardless of the merit, would you for a second consider overruling the planners to approve a deficient submission? So please don't arm the cynics tonight who claim there's a special treatment for the wealthy and well-connected. And some people in government may want to approve the plan and move on because they feel it's gone on long enough and they're tired of dealing with it. But that's not because of anything the neighbors did. In fact, SEI in 2017 received a variance to extend the timeline for its building plans. The company floated ideas and informal drawings for more than a year. Their first formal airing of its actual plan was in March, just before everything stopped because of the pandemic. As I said to you last year, we'll keep talking with SEI to trying to find a mutually agreeable solution. In fact, during the summer, we thought we had a compromise on a lot of points regarding emergency access, but then the township didn't agree. I believe if everyone's committed to finding a solution and uses some imagination and flexibility, we can do it. Why not reject this and let the process continue? SEI hasn't occupied even the first building on its North Campus yet and probably won't in the near future because of the pandemic, so there's still time. Finally, a personal appeal to the supervisors. Supervisor Starling, You said during your campaign last year that you would make sure developers check all the boxes before gaining approvals. You told us when you visited here that you opposed any more trees being removed. Supervisors Kelsey, Higgins, and Mr. Pearson, who apparently isn't there tonight, all ran on a 2017 platform of taking the township back from developers. This proposal tonight hasn't checked the boxes, and it gives more to a developer than it does to the township or its residents. As your constituents, we're asking you to stand with us against a corporate giant and remain true to your earlier promises. Is that too much to ask? Thank you.
Mr. Farber had his hand up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
I just remember reading The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. And there's a story about Tom Sawyer whitewashing a fence and getting his friends to pay him for the privilege of whitewashing his fence. And it seems SEI must have Tom Sawyer working for them, because they want to give you the privilege of plowing and patching and repaving eventually their new driveway for their 5,000 employees. And for that privilege, they want you to give them somewhere between 3 and 5 acres to build more buildings on. I think that's a pretty good deal if you're Tom Sawyer. But, you know, to me, it's just corporate welfare. You know, the acreage that you're going to abandon or give to this wealthy corporation, you aren't giving any residents building lots or land to do what they want with it. Why should this corporation get this? And you look at what they're giving you, that road, that driveway that they're giving you from their parking lot is got a steep bank on each side. It's going to have a dead air space where snow's going to accumulate. There's no place to plow the snow to, unlike Upper Indian, which has a deep a gully on the side of it. And they blasted away a hill so that you got mud and fractured rock above it, which probably will eventually come down next spring or some spring when it gets a few trees and thaw cycles and a lot of rain. You know, I just don't think you're thinking like good business people. At the very least, I'd put a 7-figure value on that and say, SEI, well, you want it, real estate is location, location. They want that location that bad, let them pay for it, big time. You know, at least give the taxpayers of the township a break. Okay, thank you.
Carol Spears has her hand up.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight before the board regarding SEI's plan. I had a long statement written out here, but I think most of my neighbors have covered a lot of what I wanted to say, so I just wanted to share some personal story that might impact your decision. One of the main sticking factors for this current plan seemed to be the flood we had over this summer. During that time, our neighborhood came together in a really, really beautiful way to support each other, to take care of one another, to share food and water. We've also come together during a pandemic where young families, older families, people who have been here for over 50 years have leaned on each other and supported each other. During one of the township meetings, SEI showed photos of the flooding in our neighborhood. I didn't see anyone from SEI come down here and ask if any of their neighbors needed anything. We were all without power for a good amount of time. I drove out at one point and noticed all of SEI's buildings completely lit up, shining from within, while our neighborhood was shut down. We had access in and out of the community very easily through the trail. It was not an issue, but the neighborhood came together. And that's why me and my family moved to Upper Providence, specifically this neighborhood. And SEI's plan is very, very selfish, and as my neighbors have stated, focuses purely on their own corporate growth and completely dismisses anyone around them. I do ask that the board members just remember what drew you and motivated you to pursue a position as an elected official in Upper Providence. Was it to support commercial growth in the township or to preserve the history and the nature of our community? Thank you.
That was the last public comment, last hand raised for tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. Brad Kingston has just raised his hand.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I think most of the neighbors have said it pretty well at this point. I just, our perspective is a little different because we haven't lived there for years and in some cases all our lives. But we feel for those who have, and we were drawn to that community, which is why we spent 6 months during the first half of last year evaluating things and talking to the sewer authority to make sure we understood what we were going to be able to do and what our life would be like there, and invested. It's not a small thing for us to have invested nearly $250,000 for a piece of land to build our forever home on, and to be a part of that community. And we made that purchase probably less than 6 weeks before finding out that SEI had designs on closing Upper Indian Head Road. And I can't add anything other than to, I guess, add that it's not just the folks you normally hear from, but we consider ourselves a part of that neighborhood at this point. And regardless of my treatment at the March meeting, I thought it was important that we speak up and say that, as one of the folks who won't even benefit from this proposed new road and what have you, the trail will be a much better option for us. But those are all things we took into consideration when we bought the property, and our neighbors are not alone in this. So that's all I have to say.
I'm not seeing anybody else.
Okay. Thank you, everyone who made comments. Appreciate all the thoughts. I'm going to move on to executive session. There's no executive sessions to report on. The next item is approval of the bill list for October 15th, 2020 to November 11th, 2020 in the amount of $1,766,114.04. Has everyone had the opportunity to look at the bill list? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the bill list for the period October 15th, 2020 through November 11th, 2020 in the amount of $1,766,114.04.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, we have two approval of minutes. There's one from September 21st, 2020 from a workshop, and October 19th, 2020 from our regular meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the September 21st, 2020 workshop, as well as the October 19th, 2020 regular meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, now we'll move on to public hearing. There's Pulte Homes request for zoning text and map amendment. Jeff.
I received an email from Joe Cools, the attorney for the applicant, at 2 o'clock this afternoon. It's a short email. I'll read it real quick. On behalf of Pulte Homes, I'm writing to request that the public hearing on its pending rezoning application be suspended and not be commenced this evening. I understand that any future public hearing on the subject application will need to be re-advertised. This also confirms the applicant's understanding that, as a rezone request, the board is under no obligation to conduct a timely hearing or render any timely decision in this matter. Accordingly, no waiver is required from the applicant. Thank you very much. I look forward to speaking with you soon. So in summary, they asked to be pulled off the agenda this afternoon.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to old business. Consider approving the capacity rights agreement for the Shepherd project on Hollow Road.
It's been quite some time since we've had a capacity rights agreement on the board agenda. In 2018, you adopted a policy through which we handle 99.9% of these administratively. However, this one does not fit that bill because the project does not have final land development approval. That's not to insinuate that it won't receive it, but we received a capacity rights agreement from Mr. Shepherd, and we don't want to hold his check any longer. So it's only appropriate to bring it before the board because this policy does not fit neatly. This agreement does not fit neatly within the policy guidelines that the board established. It's for 5 EDUs for property on Hollow Road.
And speaking in terms of the final plan, it's very close, but he's looking to be on the agenda before the end of the year, on the sewer authority's agenda before the end of the year, and we're not sure his plan will be cleaned up by then.
Does anybody have any questions on that one?
I'll make a motion to approve the capacity rights agreement for the Shepherd project on Hollow Road for 5 EDUs.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, consider adopting Resolution 2020-50, granting final land development approval with included waivers to the Parker WB Homes subdivision.
Justin Strayhorn and Ed Mullen are here for the applicant.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
This is Justin Strayhorn with WB Homes. It's good to see you all again, as much as I can say that. As you well know, I think everyone's familiar with this project, the 14 lots on Hess Road. We did receive preliminary plan approval in the summer and then worked through with the township consultants and the outside agencies to get those approvals. And we feel at this point we're in a position with the township consultants that these plans are clean with the exception of a couple minor cleanup items in terms of just consistency with notes, but from a planning and design and detailed standpoint, they are at a position, at least that we understand, that the township consultants are comfortable with. And as stated, we're here this evening requesting final land development approval from the board.
Just to be clear, this is Ed Mullen. There was a new partial waiver added to the end of the list, which has not been previously acted on. So in addition to final plan approval, we would appreciate a motion to approve the last waiver, which deals with us putting in a trail instead of certain areas of the sidewalk.
So when you say certain areas, it'll only run along one side, the sidewalk, or?
If I may, Ed and Justin, I'll explain it.
Sure.
We had discussions with WB Homes about connecting the trails to the existing township open space, which on the plan that's on the screen here is to the top, which is to the west. The plan north is to the right. There is existing township open space there with some trails in it, but they are on the western side of that. We wanted to create a full loop in this town, in this open space that connected to this development. To do that, we agreed that putting sidewalk on only one side of their cul-de-sac would be appropriate, still connecting across the street with accessible ramps, and then having WB Homes build the trail, continue the trail network in the township open space.
Which would be where?
It's at the corner of Hess and Valley View. It's on the western, southwestern side of Hess and Valley View.
So will it come down and connect, or?
Yes, it will.
So Hess and Valley View, it's going to come down?
There's already essentially we're going to be able to connect trails from from the edge of Taylor, which starts at Ridgewood, down through the WB Homes development at Founders Reserve, and then onto Valley View Road, through this development, down to this piece here, Founders Estates. It will all be connected.
Okay.
And that requires a partial waiver of the sidewalks, because, again, they're required to have sidewalks throughout the development. We're allowing them to only have half on the south side.
So does Mr. Mullen want to continue with a couple of things? I do have questions about a couple of these waivers.
Sure.
Ed, do you want to keep on going?
Not really. We're very satisfied with the resolution that's been prepared, but we're happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, then help me understand, please, the waiver requests. I'm mostly concerned about number 4, waiver of the cartway being less than 32 feet. So, and I'm reading in the consultant's reports. Did we approve that before?
Yes.
Yeah, well, the consultants don't approve it, but they just,
All of the waivers were approved at preliminary, with the exception of the last one.
they're restated here, but only the last one's new.
All right, so we came off of that. Usually, you know, that's a big give back, the cart weight, because I just don't like any road less than 32 feet, personally.
It's Hess Road as it exists today.
Understand, Hess
Okay.
Road is whatever, 22 feet, so this road's 22 feet. So I understand the point about not making
No, not
a dead end.
not the new road. Hess doesn't have to be widened in front of it.
Okay, then I misread that, I apologize. Okay, so the new road is 32. I'm
Yeah.
happy, okay.
Correct.
That's your easy.
I don't know. Okay.
Somebody's happy, I'm
I don't know, that's good. And then, what would, the water, the fire protection, where the gallons per minute on the fire protection, so we waived that, we're okay with, just so I want to reconfirm, or is there a way we're trying to boost that pressure up there, or no?
Yes, the fire marshal has agreed to that on this development and a couple up on Greenwood Avenue also.
Okay, all right.
I have a question back to the sidewalk. Since it's a cul-de-sac, where does the sidewalk end before it hits the cul-de-sac at the end?
It goes from this house here at the corner. Well, it's all across the front here. It goes at this house at the corner, comes down on this side, around this cul-de-sac, all the way back to lot number 5. There's no sidewalk from the corner here down to house number 5. So it goes around the cul-de-sac. There's 4 houses that do not have sidewalk in front of it, but they have sidewalk directly across the street.
And then could you point out with the light where the trail would go?
The trail connects approximately here and comes over into this property here.
And is there a trail that runs through the neighborhood too, or?
Yeah, well, there's sidewalk that runs through this neighborhood here. So you will be able to, from house 5, you will be able to walk and get to the trail.
Gotcha.
I did not put an aerial in here. I really wish I had, but I did not.
It's okay.
I'm just figuring, like, so would they put a trail in that would connect to Hess, and so that we allowed them not to put the sidewalk on the one side for the trail?
Yes.
So they added on what part of the trail, though? The Hess part already had a trail.
Well, no, there's no sidewalk or trail along the frontage of Hess here.
Okay.
It will connect across the street approximately at the top of their property and through to the township open space, which is over here.
Right up on, I have Google up
Yeah.
where the trail is.
Yeah.
So it's going to go all the way up to Valley View?
Yes, the trail connection will go all the way through Valley, well, it's connecting to some existing trail, but it will go to Valley View.
The trail looks like a P,
Yeah.
Right.
Al, and it'll connect to the bottom of that P.
Okay.
It's approximately 1,000 feet of trail.
Okay.
Okay, Joe, this resolution he's talking about on the sidewalk, it's included in this resolution. We don't need to specify it separately, do we?
Yeah, I don't think you have to state it separately as another motion. I think since it's in the
included.
resolution, you're okay.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2020-50, granting final land development approval with included waivers to the Barker/WB Homes subdivision.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries. All right,
Thank
next.
you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Consider adopting Resolution 2020-51, granting tentative land development approval for SEI Reber Road Extension, option number 3.
Ed Mullen is here, as is Greg Gettinger, Mike Ventresca, and Rocco Caracciola. I think the plan is before you. We've heard our neighbors speak. I will just comment on a couple things. That the purpose for this whole plan is because we would like to be able to eliminate that portion of Upper Indian Head Road that divides our campus, so that we have a campus that's all united without a public road running through it. So while we were talking about solving that problem, the issue of trying to help our neighbors in the flooding situation came up, which is where we ended up with the plan that you see before you tonight. I do want to make very clear a number of things, and that is that we have absolutely no problem and will enter into an agreement with the township so that the neighbors can always go through our property to get to the traffic light on Cider Mill Road. Also, there's a concern that if someone goes out the Reber Road extension, that there could be a dangerous situation there. And we believe that could be solved with a 3-way stop sign, which can be determined by the township and doesn't need any PennDOT resolution. So I think the board was talking about a parking lot, and would be happy to add that. So basically, what I'd like to do is have Rocco describe to you the plan that's before you. And Rocco, go ahead.
Okay, yes, the plan before us, it is a variation, and everybody has mentioned, it was back in March 11th when we first appeared. That plan was a very different plan. Reber Road that was proposed at that time was a 32-foot cartway that really pushed to the north and west of where the current alignment is, and actually made a straight shot right down to South Reber Road. So at that meeting, we were advised it'd be good to go back, try to find a compromise, try to find something that was less, less of a direct route to help the neighbors keep their community the way it is. So this new plan was what we developed from there. And what this new plan does, it actually greatly reduces the amount of new construction, and also how far we push into what I call the north and west towards the Hunt Club and up towards, I think, Mr. Kraft's house. But this plan is also good because, yes, there was clearing done from the old land development plan. And by doing this plan here, we can actually put a lot more landscaping in, create a lot more of a buffer for the residents, because we won't have that large road going down through there. The other benefit of this plan is talking with the township staff, right now we're looking at just a 20-foot wide connection, which is what we call the North Reber Road extension. And that's actually following an area that has already been cleared. It's been cleared for a while. The only real new clearance will be right at the northern part of North Reber, halfway down as you get towards South Reber. This was really, and I did hear the residents speaking, I really appreciate and value their opinion, but that connection actually, because of the flooding that happened with Isaias, it kind of opened everybody's eyes that at South Reber Road, where it touches Lower Indian Head, I think that was under about 4 foot of water with this last event. The other thing that, and I've mentioned this before at numerous meetings, the storms that we're seeing now, the flashiness, they're just getting worse. So although 20 years have passed by and the neighborhood bonded, which is all great things, the fire truck actually made it down there. I think I heard it was its first time down. That's good when everything works. But as things get worse, you just never know. And as an engineer, I can't design to how well it's working. I have to do what is proven. And the one thing that's proven is a 20-foot wide fire lane. I think your township staff are aware of that as well. Once you start saying, I'm going to work with a 10-foot wide trail, I can't really be party to that because that isn't good, safe design. And this really gives us an opportunity to do something that will solve a problem that's been around for a long time. The residents that are down there, this is really a glorified cul-de-sac with a very inadequate emergency access, which requires driving on the county trail system of inadequate width, and that you actually physically have to come and get the bollards out. And yes, if there are bollards that you can drive over, I don't know how much better that makes it, but where we are is we think we have finally worked together to come up with a good plan. I did hear talk about how the township will be doing all this maintenance. I know my client at SEI, they will maintain both plowing and paving and any maintenance needed all the way down the Reber Road extension to the Candy Cane and around the Candy Cane. That will not be just put off to the township. I mean, I think that's the agreement that was talked about with everybody. The one portion that the township will have to maintain is just that small spur of that Reber Road connection. And that's the other reason why we want to make sure it's a safe connection and a connection that can be plowed, can be maintained, and then when that emergency does come about, it's a viable access way for ingress and egress. So that's where we are. I really just like to answer any questions that anybody on the board does have.
Ed, you know, there was some back and forth about moving that North Reber Road extension up onto the Candy Cane Bend so that there's more buffer for the neighbors. And you had said something that this was a better plan because you could add more landscaping in. Could you explain that to me, the way that it's laid out here? How would that be better?
I will ask Rocco to explain that if he can, because when I spoke with him, I guess we can't draw on your plan remotely, but I guess Rocco can describe to you what we're talking about, and he believes that you put more buffering there with this iteration than the other one. Rocco?
Yes. Thank you, Ed. Yeah, the prior plan is still, that had Reber Road, the extension that came out and actually turned to the north, almost to a point where it was coming in, if you extended South Reber Road all the way out to an intersection. I think that's up by the Corbett driveway. That just puts all that impervious in the way of future landscaping. This way, all that area is back opened up. That could be regraded and planted. The landscape plan we showed with that original drawing, this I know it'll give so much more opportunities because now we can actually get the trees in between the neighborhood and their line of sight of not just the campus, but of Cider Mill Road and 422.
Jeff, can you put the plan up? I think what we're talking about is, Helene, you were talking about buffering on the inside of that circle, and we're talking about buffering on the outside of that circle where we have a lot more room and can do a much better job.
Correct. If you look at this plan, and that's actually a good point, Ed. If you look at South Reber and say you just extended that all the way out straight to about where it touches the Corbett driveway, which you see going up, all that area was going to be cleared and the roadway system would go there and then loop back around to this Reber Road extension. Now all that area is just back to being natural, where we can then do all the buffering in there. And of course, where the Reber Road extension goes down to the neighborhood, on the east side there, we will still put the landscaping all along there. I mean, we'll use the same thick evergreen tree row we had around the old loop that came off the Candy Cane. We'll be able to put that down there and then, you know, further do a much better job to buffer.
Jeff, could you show me with the light where the trail would be on this plan? Would the trail,
The trail would run, it's a little hard to see, but there's some hatching that's in between here. I think that's the right-of-way for the county trail. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rocco. When looking at this plan.
Right, I can't see the laser pointer, but I do know, yes, the trail actually stays to the east of that Reber Road connection between North and South Reber Road.
Yeah.
So that trail will stay at the location that it's at right now.
yeah. Just stay right where it is. Here, here. No, would it? I have a question, and this may be to Jeff. The next step, let's just say, would we need a full traffic study for Cider Mill and Reber Road? And this was mentioned when Ed was kicking his session off about putting a three-way stop sign. Would we have a regular traffic study to figure out what would be best?
I would defer to Casey for the specifics on what's next. I think it's identified in his letter.
In our comment letter, it's on page 3 of 5, they did a traffic study back in February 2019, and we had a number of comments at that time. And some of those comments we asked for to be updated with the latest plan. So at that point in time, there was consideration of looking at that access point for a signal, looking at that access point for a roundabout. He's mentioning tonight a three-way stop. I think they would have to investigate the type of control there. As that part of the campus would build out and that parking lot that would become a larger parking garage and traffic would empty out there, I think it could warrant more than a three-way stop, and they'd have to look at the queuing so that the queuing at the three-way stop, especially in the afternoon, is not backing up through the signal. So those are things that they would look at in the update of the traffic study.
And I failed to mention that we have no problems with either of the review letters. We can satisfy the consultant's concerns, so we don't have any problems with any of those things.
Yeah, I have concern about talking about using a three-way stop there. I would think a treadle and a traffic light would be a much better solution for that, to keep the steady flow of traffic on Cider Mill Road and to allow for the rush hour when in and out of your campus. I think the direction we're going tonight is, you know, we're going to probably grant you preliminary approval, but before we can grant final approval on this, we're going to need a much more engineered drawing of the finished campus.
Clarify, there's 3 steps in the state law and in your ordinance. This is the first of the 3, tentative sketch, so we're not even to preliminary yet.
Okay.
So we have preliminary still, and then finally after that. Conceptually, a developer, an applicant is allowed to come into you with a tentative sketch approval, not just SEI or anybody that has a lot of money, but even, applicants who don't have a lot of money, regardless of how much money they have, they're allowed to come in front of you with a conceptual plan called the tentative sketch plan and ask for your approval of the concept before they've engineered it. And then once conceptually it's approved and you move to preliminary, then things get really buttoned down and you'll see a lot more detail.
Well, what I was going to say is the Upper Indian Head corridor doesn't only function as a way in and out of the Reber Road neighborhood. It's also a de facto and unofficial trailhead for that portion of the trail. And it allows people to come in by auto, by bike, and by foot and access the trail there. So that's another thing that will need to be in the final drawing, is how do we establish a trailhead somewhere in this plan that it allows that. And I know that there's a county park right down the road, but it requires crossing Egypt Road either on foot or bike. And I like the idea, as I told a developer at Yerkes, it excites me that somebody can walk out their front door, hit their sidewalk or their street, and bike or walk to the trail. We spend a lot of money on trails in this township, and the Perkiomen and the Schuylkill trails are our backbone. So that's something I want to see in the final drawing, but I think you're on the right track. And yes, there is a real safety issue with the access to the Reber Road neighborhood now, especially at times of high water. I observed it myself in this latest storm we had. And, when our firefighters are tied up for an extra hour or two down there, that means that they can't get to another situation on the other side of the township on the Schuylkill River. So that's all I would say.
Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-51, granting tentative land development approval for SEI Reber Road Extension Option Number 3.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, good night.
All right. On to new business. Consider authorizing execution of easement and compensation agreements for the Pleasant Lane Sewer Main Extension Project.
The board members have a easement and compensation agreement before them for the D'Angelo easement. If you recall, earlier this year, you authorized Joe to pursue an eminent domain action on the property. Fortunately, he was able to negotiate with the property owners, and this is the last easement that we need to bid the Pleasant Lane sewer project. You'll likely see that at our December meeting, that bid with the Springville Estates and Pleasant Lane is one project. But tonight, we're asking the board to authorize execution of the compensation and easement agreements for the D'Angelo properties on Mennonite Road.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we authorize execution of the easement and compensation agreements for the Pleasant Lane Sewer Main Extension Project.
I'll second the motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, consider adopting Resolution 2020-47, authorizing the use of eminent domain to obtain easements on parcels number 61-00-03969-00-2 at 577 Old State Road for Tindy Run Sanitary Sewer Project.
Joe, if you don't mind, you can probably speak to this better than I can.
This one and the one following are both necessitated by not yet having reached an agreement with the owners for compensation in exchange for easements. By you approving the resolution, you only authorized me to use eminent domain. There is still a packet of information I have to report to the court to actually do that. You're just authorizing it, and then that authorization by state law is effective for 1 year. And hopefully still get something worked out early in the game on it. I'll just mention them both since I'm talking about, about the first one. The second one, I've actually ordered for title insurance and a title report. We're trying to track down a sort of difficult and interesting estate issue with ownership of the property and who all has claim toward ownership of the property. Because when you use eminent domain, you have to notify everyone who has an interest in the property. And so we're working on that. The first one's a little more straightforward. They just don't think that it has to go through their property. So sometimes you just don't reach agreements with people, and that's the way it is. But we'll keep talking to them.
You have the address?
It's the 577 Old State.
Well, that's Old State, I'm sorry, but then you have an Iroquois Drive. Oh, so-
That parcel doesn't have an address.
Okay.
Is there several people who own that? Is that what makes it messy?
The putative, the owner died, it's in an estate, and there appears to be an ex-wife making a claim against his estate, and I don't want to comment publicly on,
Yeah.
I don't really know, but I do know that there is another attorney retained and that there's a claim and that it is potentially very complicated.
Sounds like I don't want to know. No.
Very, very wise, Joe, very wise.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Just a sec, I just wanted to double
sure.
check, Mr. President, with the first one. You just haven't come to an agreement yet, but you think you probably will on the Gavoda parcel?
When people are faced with really moving ahead with eminent domain after it's been authorized, and it tends to, focus their
Motivate
attention-
them?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Because we will provide compensation if we come to agreement,
Absolutely.
but we don't have to if we use eminent domain, correct?
If you use eminent domain, you have to compensate
We
them
do,
at
okay.
fair market value.
All right. I'll make a resolution 2020-47 authorizing the use of eminent domain to obtain easements on parcel number 61-00-03969-00-2 at 577 Old State Road for the Tindy Run Sanitary Sewer Project.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. And then on to the second one. Consider adopting Resolution 2020-48, authorizing eminent domain to obtain of a portion of parcel number 61-00-02, 668-80-8 on Iroquois Drive for Tindy Run Pump Station.
Okay, I'll make a motion to authorize, adopted resolution 2020-48, authorizing eminent domain to obtain a portion of parcel number 61-00-02668-80-8 on Iroquois Drive for the Tindy Run Pump Station.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, consider adopting Resolution 2020-49, committing $10,000 towards a Pico Green Region grant application for the Hess Preserve.
This is nearly self-explanatory. Pico Green Region grant that Sue intends to use to replace trees that have died on the Hess Preserve and also provide some informational signage. We just completed a small parking lot to provide people with the ability to park safely and walk through the park. It's be some additional signage to help guide them through there.
Do we get that every year, Brian, or?
Don't get it every year. I think we've applied for it in the past. Again, it's a $10,000 match towards a $10,000 grant.
It's a competitive grant, but not super competitive. Probably about 80% track record.
If you could give us the details on tree, what this is going to be used for, it is to replace trees, as I understand it. Is that correct?
I believe there's a number of trees that have died from the emerald ash borer, and I think Sue intends to replace those with some of the proceeds from the grant.
As I understand, it was 150 trees that died.
Okay, more than some then. Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2020-49, committing $10,000 towards a Pico Green Region grant application for the Hess Preserve.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Consider authorizing execution of the 7 annual Emergency Medical Services Agreement and Fire Services Agreement.
These are the annual agreements that we do with the 3 EMS providers for the township, Trap Fire Company, Lower Providence Ambulance, and Friendship Ambulance. There are 1-year terms beginning March 18th of 2021, and 4 with the volunteer fire companies that serve the township: BlackRock, Royersford, Trap, and Collegeville. The fire company agreements happen to run January 1 to January 1. That's why we have them on the agenda, and we included those for EMS agencies, despite the fact they run March to March. It's one fell swoop. There's no change in the scope of the services, nor their districts, the funding that the township is proposing, or any change in their reporting requirements.
I noticed the payments on the bill list to those 4 fire companies. Were those monthly payments in
I
this?
think that was relief funding that you saw. That comes once a year from the state. It's a pass-through.
Okay.
So there's no changes to these yearly? They're just,
There have been changes in the past, but there are none,
None this year.
from this year into the next year.
And this includes the Trap Ambulance agreement that's in there too?
It does. Trap Ambulance is in there as well.
does anybody have any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we authorize execution of the 7 annual emergency medical services agreements and fire service agreements.
I'll second the motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, manager and department head reports. Consultant reports are first up. Engineering and capital improvement project updates.
Helene, just on the manager's report, the preliminary budget has been posted on the website. We did make those minor changes from the last workshop regarding Ashenfelder Road, so it's all up. Encourage residents, if they have any questions, to review it and field questions. I already got a couple text questions tonight from Mr. Peters, so thank you, Mr. Peters. That's all I have.
Okay. Consultant reports.
Just one item, we will have it for you at the December 7th meeting, the bid for consideration for the flood plain and the spring
Okay.
2 things. This lists one, and I kind of am adding one on my own to the one that's listed. The one that's listed is the lease agreement with the municipal authority. That has been circulated to staff. As I have drafted it, the authority would make recommendations to the board for imposition of MS4 fees and the collection of them. You know, we've talked about that a lot. I had to start somewhere. Really, it would be consistent with how the authority has operated for many years on the sanitary sewer side. You are authorized as a second-class township by state law to do it yourself. But I went with the version that was consistent with how things have been on the sanitary sewer side. If that's agreeable to everybody, you have to start somewhere. You know, we're both parties to the agreement and in the township family, the authority and you guys. Then what would happen if everybody's agreeable, then the authority would have its articles amended in Harrisburg to authorize it to participate in the MS4 process and making the recommendations to you. That's a recent change in the state law that allows them to do that. They never used to be, and if it's an existing authority, you have to change their articles to authorize them to do that. That's where we stopped before, right when we got to that point. Last year, I guess it was, the board, you expressed concern of oversight, that if the authority was going to do it on their own, you wanted it to come to you for approval above a certain amount. As the lease is written, it's slightly different from that, but we can do it that way if you want. If the authority actually imposed the fee and collected the fee, it would be a little harder administratively because they don't have their own staff and they've never really, met that way, so they could do that. But I drafted it the other way, stating to staff it could be done any version. I just had to put enough into a first lease to give something to everybody to push back against. And I guess staff will, if they, I haven't dialogued since I circulated it with anybody on staff, and that's what we'll do next, and make sure that staff is comfortable and then talk to the authority.
And the authority, I think, is meeting on December 3rd, and we might want to make that a joint meeting with the board to discuss that.
So it's just set up that they can give us recommendations.
The way that I have it drafted, they would come to you with a recommended calculation based on advice from the engineer, and then you would say yay or nay to that. And the lease is, the reason why it's done as a lease now as opposed to as just a separate agreement is that we came to realize that the authority actually owns the system, not the township. And it was leased to the township back in the 60s to facilitate financing, and then it was carried forward with everyone operating under the assumption that the lease continued on, forever, but really the lease ended when the financing was paid back. So this is an opportunity to fix that and then address this MS4 overlay. The other thing I wanted to mention is that there is a zoning hearing scheduled for December 1st. The applicant is Vertical Bridge. This is an application for a variance to put a cell tower in a residential R1 zoning district. The towers are allowed in other districts by conditional use, but they're prohibited in the R1. So they're asking for a variance in order to put it in the R1. Usually when they do that, it's because they're going to have testimony that they have a gap in their coverage and they need a pole at a certain location to fill in that gap in their provision of service to the public. I had a call, I spoke to the zoning hearing board solicitor at some length today, and invested some time looking into this. He just wanted to make sure that the township that the Board of Supervisors was aware of it, and if you opposed the application, that he wanted you to consider sending me to participate at the hearing. I never lobby to go to those. You all as a board have always said, let them do their job. We don't want to look like we're babysitting them. Sometimes, as I've said to you before, if, for example, an applicant challenges an ordinance and says the ordinance is invalid, then I pretty much have to go. Beyond that, I only go if it's important to you and you want me to go. I can't recall if we talked about this one. We do bring these up to you to say, do you guys want to send me? But I couldn't recall if we...
212 Ashenfelter Road. They put one up the road on the Glaxo property. This is another residence. It's been in the manager's report, but I understand why sometimes that doesn't always stick.
We don't always read it. Okay, so it's right on the road. I'm just having a look.
Well, the plan, and I didn't put the plan up here, but the plan shows the cell tower to the back of that property, to the 422 side of that property.
422 side?
Yeah.
So how far, so it's literally a couple hundred yards from where the one that was just put in, really, right? It's not that far.
Is it the same carrier? I don't know.
I think it's a different carrier.
I don't know if it's the same, I'm just saying it's very close to the other one.
Again, yeah, he has, I know statutorily, I know within the ordinance he has to be 1,500 feet away. He feels like he meets that requirement. I haven't studied it at this point because the hearing isn't until next week, and we're not sure if we're sending Joe. So we haven't really looked at the specifics of how far,
Okay.
how away it is.
Well, so I can see it on that. I'm not opposed to letting the zoning hearing board just handle it. Otherwise, we don't need it.
And that's fine. Given the length of the time today, I wanted to make sure that you guys
At least knew about
definitely knew what was up and, so, okay.
Lori, how do you feel about that? Do you want them to do it themselves? Do you want Joe to go?
Unless there's an issue that Joe needs to address.
I mean, I haven't really even, until today, I hadn't looked at this application either. I can't say that I don't know what I really would have to work with. I would, all I would be there to do is put the applicant through his paces, improving what he has to prove in order to get a variance. I don't know whether there will be neighbors there opposing to ask questions or anything, so I can't say that I would obviously do my best to represent the township if you objected to the application, but as of today, I really can't say. What I can say is that I would definitely make him prove his case. Whether we have a specific issue to hang our hat on, I don't know. There is no discovery in a zoning case. You just have their application and then you get there.
You said that Mr. Curry asked you to come?
He didn't ask me to come. His feeling, what he's said, his position is the same that it's been on other things. If you oppose it, consider participating in it so that he has something, that you're giving him something to work with. Because if there's nobody opposing the applicant, he has to just call it, like with what's proven. So he wasn't asking me to come by any means. He's just there to call things straight down the middle. He just doesn't want the township miffed if he has to grant it and there wasn't somebody there opposing it. And that ties into how strongly you feel about it anyway. So,
and so the board understands the notification, within 500 feet, the neighbors have to be, the adjacent properties have to be notified. Those notifications just went out today. I think the property is probably going to be posted tomorrow. So if we start to hear something, a groundswell or something like that, I can certainly let you know. I'll keep Joe in the loop on it. Sometimes I hear beforehand that there's going to be a lot of people there. Sometimes I don't.
Why don't we do it that way? Keep it open to see what the reaction is.
Well, when's the hearing?
sorry?
When is the hearing?
December 1st. I have a hearing that night that I'll have Eric Fry cover somewhere else, and then I could do that one if it becomes necessary.
We don't have to, do we have to rule on it, Joe, whether to send you or not? Or is it just, we don't have to pass anything to send you or not? You just.
No.
Oh, no,
You're already, the township's automatically a party to every zoning hearing.
we
Sending me is a
decided
decision you can
now.
make later. You don't have to convene.
Okay. All right. Thank you for getting the municipal authority going. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
that went long enough, I think.
Yeah, it's coming up on us, and thank you for taking the step. And getting things straightened out, since we don't really even need, own it, and it was leased and all of that, so yeah. All right, is that it, Joe?
Yeah, I'm just clarifying. So as of right now, I'm not going, but if things change after it's posted and there's a lot of feedback, then possibly so.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, supervisors' comments, and I know you always like to mention a book.
I have another book. It's called Dog Medicine by Julie Barton. I'll just let you get into it if you're interested.
Okay. Nothing? Okay, upcoming events. Board of Supervisors meeting schedules December 7th, 2020 at 7 o'clock. Our final budget adoption meeting, that's what that is, on December 7th. December 21st is our regular meeting, that's also at 7. Planning Commission meeting scheduled, the November 25th meeting is canceled. There is a December 9th, 2020 at 7 p.m. The agenda items are to be decided. There's a Park and Recreation Committee meeting, that is November 18th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Comprehensive Plan Subcommittee meeting scheduled November 18th, 2020 at 7 p.m. And Municipal Authority meeting schedules December 3rd, 2020 at 7 p.m. Okay, anything else?
Yes, Mr. Tieperman, if we want to cancel the 21st, meeting on the 21st, we have that for a placeholder in case we need it, but we can cancel it on the 7th?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
You got it.
Unless you really want to be here.
It's like 3 days before Christmas.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
All righty. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.